Welcome to episode 8 of Next Gen Convos. Today's topic is what sex ed class missed. We'll be discussing everything from birth control and resources for minors to the importance of STD testing and resources for young parents.
The material and information presented here is provided by Lived Experience Youth and for general information purposes only. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed are of the guests of our podcast own and do not represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of Youth Move.
Guys, how are babies made?
See, when a mommy and a daddy really like each other, but I don't know, when it comes to this, how babies are made, let's keep it honest here, and it's through sex. And the kind of touchy subject of sex is, what is it, because it's one of those things where it's like, how do you get into play of what it is, how it is? Of course, if we go with like the Google definition of sex, it is when a man and a woman have, another word, intercourse, and a penis is in a vagina. I hate this so much.
So how a baby is actually made is a sperm enters the egg into the female.
Right.
Scientifically
speaking, if we're going off of that.
Well, I feel like there's so much unknown specifically about women's health. And there's so many gray areas. Like, I remember in high school firmly believing that it was impossible to get pregnant the first time you had sex.
Yes.
I remember hearing it's literally impossible to get pregnant if you're on your period. Neither of those things are technically true, you know?
A lot of the times that we've had, especially in high school, which we have a couple people in high school, it's one of those things where sex education is always male-based. I don't know why it is, because it's always we will literally spend an entire week talking about men, and it's just here's testicles, here's his penis, here's the shaft, here's the head. We are literally going deep into this. And then as soon as we have some type of female discussion,
it's only about pregnancy.
It's always about pregnancy, one, and it's always about our period.
Yeah.
And then I don't know about y'all, but when I was given this conversation, it was, here's a pad, here's a tampon, figure it out.
Yeah.
And so the thing is that sex education needs to come to a point where it needs to be 10 times better, because when it comes to that situation, it's one of those things where it's a lot of hush hush when it comes to that situation, because it's just oh, we're not supposed to be talking about this, or why would you want to talk about it? And the thing is I'm gonna be honest, there's going to be kids that are going to be sexually active in the times of us getting into that puberty section, and it's one of those things where it's just I'd rather it be discussed than it kind of be hush hush, and it's just you're a bad person if you are sexually active. That's another thing that I want to tell you guys. You are not a bad person if you are sexually active.
I think with that too, it's important. I don't know how this all ties in together, but when Julia was talking about beliefs, I full-heartedly believed you could not get pregnant on birth control. I believed it. And that's not actually the 100% case.
Right.
There's that 99% chance. But then you can always be I'm not that 1%. And then you turn out to be that 1% and have a baby.
Right.
So I think they also, when we're in our sex ed class, they don't teach you about birth control.
No, they don't.
Did you know you can go to a center, I think it's 13 or 16, without your parents knowing to get birth control?
No,
I did not know that either.
Another thing that they don't also tell you about is that we're in the day and age of technology. So you can actually get birth control shipped to your house. Yes, you can get birth control shipped to your house. It could be non-disclosed. Yeah, I suggest looking it up. It's all over TikTok though. But they mentioned about the fact that you can get your pills and things of that sort, you can't really get like your IUDs or your Nexplanon. You're gonna have to go to the doctor for those. A lot of people don't know what Nexplanon and IUDs are, so I will explain what IUDs and Nexplanon is. So IUDs go inside and there's two different types, right? I think there's a copper IUD and then just the regular one. From what I remember, the copper IUD is 5 years and the regular one is 3, I believe. From what I remember, I can't remember off the top of my head, but that is one of the birth controls that you can keep for a while. Another thing that I did not know is with Nexplanon, you're not supposed to keep it in for past 3 years.
It's saying up to 10 years for the copper IUD.
Oh, they changed it up. So up to 10 years. I had Nexplanon and the max that you can have it in your arm is 3 years. I had it in for like 6. And so what it does is that it has a lot of side effects to it. So I would be very careful with that. But with birth control, all in general, there's weight gain, there's hormonal imbalances with it. It's
period irregulation.
Right, period irregulations. And sometimes people get on birth control to regulate their periods and stuff like that. So with this topic and everything like that, we do have a special guest. His name is Caleb, and we are going to introduce him. He might be a visitor with us. So if you hear him more often, then
hi, Caleb.
So welcome in, Caleb.
Thanks for having me. This is definitely interesting. My first podcast. Excited.
How you feeling about it?
I'm feeling good.
That's good.
Feel good.
Feel good. So what's some things that like we haven't said that you feel like is missing with this conversation?
I mean, like going back to talking about it in school, it's very similar to the way, like, people in high school, they're going to drink, they're going to smoke pot,
right?
They're going to have sex. And it's all, these are things they're told not to do, but we know it's inevitable that they're going to do it. And we must give them the resources to, when they do make that decision, to be safe, to know what's going to happen, what's going on. And it needs to be more of that sort of conversation, I feel like. And then it puts less this stigma on it and doesn't make it feel like such an enigma, like something that you want to push the boundaries, you want to challenge that, or you want to do. It's more of a preparation.
Yeah. And bouncing off of that is one of those things where, like I said before, they were talking about how like it's a bad thing. And the thing is like, I don't know how many times our parents have been like, oh, this is something you just don't do. And it's just like, I don't know about y'all,
I'm gonna do it.
but I snuck around and did it anyway.
Yeah.
So it was just one of those things where it was just like, I don't know. I feel like I'm not going to say like, go for it, have sex and be free. But also in the same breath, it's just like, I'm going to need y'all to be for real about it. Because it's just like, you guys being so hush-hush about the situation and being safe. Like you were saying, Caleb.
Be safe.
Be safe and be smart about it. So have the condoms. And I don't know about y'all, when I was in school, they literally like beyond scared straight us into the situation. They were like, here's blue waffle, here's malaria, here's chlamydia, you guys are gonna die. And I was like, oh, okay, which a lot of people don't know what chlamydia is, what gonorrhea is, one of these situations. Those are sexually transmitted diseases. And you can only get those through having sex. And one of those things is like, you have to be safe. And I am a strong believer of communicating with whoever it is that you are having sex with, what you have going on. Because I don't know what it is about like people not communicating, like, hey, I have gonorrhea, or, I got herpes, things of that situation. You have to talk about those things.
Wait, I have a question. Soraya, you said that you can get like syphilis and gonorrhea by having sex. What kind of sex?
There are many different ways that you can get syphilis and gonorrhea and things of that sort. You can get this vaginally. You can also get this anally. And yeah, it's one of those things where it's just like, you have to be careful with that too, because it's just a lot of the times when people think, oh, I'm going to go backdoor with this, you can still get sexually transmitted diseases.
Don't forget orally.
And orally as well. Because I don't know if anybody has heard, you can get chlamydia in your throat. You can get the disease in your throat. You can get it through genitalia. It's one of those things where you just kind of have to be very, very careful about.
Another thing to make sure you watch is that your condoms do expire. And that's something to always be cautious of, because condoms aren't the safest birth control there is. And adding an extra factor in there just makes it extra likely for there to be something that happens. And you don't want that.
Keeping that condom that's sitting in your wallet from prom night and you trying to use it on your girlfriend in like 2023, yeah, that's not cute, babe. No, we're not going to do that. So what you're going to do is get new ones. I don't know how this works, so I'm going to give it to you with this because, like, I don't know, when do they expire? Because I've never had that conversation because I don't really use them like that. So take it away.
Honestly, it really like depends on not only the brand but the type you get, because a lot of them, it's not necessarily the condom that's expiring, but it's the condom with the lube, and you just got to check. The box will tell you, the individual condom should tell you as well.
That is true. It's kind of like one of those things where it's like food.
Your milk, you're going to check the expiration date on your milk.
According to Google, it's 1 to 5 years.
I was going to say, make sure, because condoms I know have a little air in them, make sure that they still have the air in them, because if not, I ran into this situation where someone poked holes in condoms.
If you're going to use condoms as well, don't sit here and use your teeth like a gremlin and actually just take your fingers and pull it. I've had a conversation about when I was younger, put a condom on properly. And so if you...
Such a big one.
Yeah, because a lot of the times people will flip it. And if they don't get it on right the first time, they'll just flip it over and then put it on. That is not the way to go, because if you did not put it on right the first time, you need to throw it away.
Yeah, whole new one.
A whole new one. Just rip a whole new one and then just put it on properly.
Half the time when you flip it the wrong way, there's a little tear that happens just because of the way the condom works.
And also, don't double stack them.
No.
Please, for the love of God, do not double stack them. That causes friction. And you'll just tear them, and at that point, it's
useless.
Also, please do not be afraid to ask about latex allergies. It's a real thing.
Thank you.
Ask. Communication is key. It's like asking if someone has had a disease. Don't be afraid. It shouldn't be a weird topic. It shouldn't be this taboo thing. It's keeping yourself safe and being smart.
Speaking of taboo, that's another thing too, kind of like discovering what it is that you like and what you don't like. There's a lot of times where it'll be like a virgin situation, or which I'm pretty sure everybody knows, but I'm going to give the definition of a virgin is somebody that has never had sex. And so when it comes to that situation, a lot of the times we will get to a point where there's somebody more experienced in sex than the other person, or you guys have no idea what's going on. Sex is a good thing to, discover what you like, what you don't like, not getting to the point of...
You're more talking about like what birth control you prefer, like what kind of like sex acts do you like, stuff like that.
It's just
and like making sure you're just doing it all healthy, because that's the main key. Like you don't want to just destroy yourself with all these like diseases or problems, or even just unplanned pregnancies could like pop into your life and then just wreak havoc. You just want to make sure like you're doing all the right things and in a healthy way.
And
Right.
making sure you're communicating, because not
Yes.
everyone likes the same thing. And if you
Mhm.
like one thing, that's cool, but make sure it's cool with whoever your partner is.
I think it is very important, and I'm going to say this right now.
Mm-hmm.
It is okay to say no.
Thank
It is
you.
okay in the
Absolutely.
middle of sex to be like, or any type of sexual anything to be, no, I don't want to do this. And you have that right to say absolutely not and stop right there.
Exactly.
And this goes for all genders,
Yes.
anyone. It does not matter what position you're in. You hold the power to say no.
Right. And the thing is that it's also a respect thing too. And if the person that you are getting involved with does not know how to respect you, then you don't need to be involved with that person. You need to take a step back and you need to move on from that situation because it's about your mental safety, emotional safety, and sexual
Physical
safety,
safety.
and physical safety as well.
You also have a right to be like, we are not having sex because there's male condoms, there's
Female condoms.
female condoms. I mean, there's condoms, everything's just, there's a whole bunch of resources. And you have a right to say, absolutely not. We're not having sex unless it is being used or there is birth control involved,
Yes.
because you don't want to end up being a single parent. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah. If you are going to have sex unprotected as well, you guys also need to have that conversation of, if that person gets pregnant, what are you going to do in that situation? Because when it comes to that conversation, a lot of the times it's going to be like, oh, I'm going to do the pull-out method and whatever happens. Absolutely not. That is unacceptable behavior and it's very childish. And if you are going to go off of that, then maybe you should not be having sex at that point, because sex is, I wouldn't say it's an adult thing, but it's very one of those
It's a mature thing.
Yeah, there we go. It's one of those mature things. And if you're just going to go off the fly and just be like, whatever happens kind of situation, it's not appropriate. It's not mature. It's very kid-like, and maybe you should not be making those mature decisions if you're going to continue making those thoughts.
And to my listeners out there, especially, if you make a mistake, it happens, but be willing and be able to go and buy that plan B immediately, which doesn't always work still, but take responsibility for what you did.
Thank you. That is one thing that I am super hyper heavy about, because a lot of the times which women do the same thing. It's like we end up having this miscommunication of, well, I want to keep it. And then he's like, well, I don't. Have a conversation about what it is. I'm not saying like you're trying to have a future with this person or whatever, but if you're going to end up having a one night stand with this person, be prepared for whatever actions come after that. Like, if you're going to have a one night stand, condoms, period, point blank. Be responsible people, for crying out loud.
And be straightforward. Like,
Exactly.
don't beat around the bush. Don't expect them to understand or know what you want. You have to be able to communicate that.
Right.
Also, get tested.
Thank
If
you.
you are changing partners, if your partner is suspected of cheating, if you are doing something, any of that line, like just get tested afterwards, whatever it was.
Every
It doesn't matter if you're LGBTQ or straight or bi or anything like that. Just get tested for our population's sake.
Thank you. Because I don't know how many times, and it is a very dangerous game that people play, where they're just like, oh yeah, I have this disease. I'm just going to continuously having sex with people and not say anything. You have to be the most vile human being in the world to just willy-nilly just have sex with people knowing you have some type of STD and then just completely just on the fly and just do whatever. Protect yourself in that situation.
Or they
too.
don't even know. They don't
Yeah,
know,
too.
and they're just out there doing whatever. And
Right.
because there's asymptomatic and then
Yes.
there's symptomatic symptoms. If you're asymptomatic, you're not going to know what you had unless it actually shows up on your body or some kind of weird symptom. But if you are symptomatic, you need to go to the doctor and get it fixed or treated or something, because that's just gross. Like when it comes down to it, it's just gross. It is.
Well, let's take that. Let's not say gross, because we don't want to like reiterate that like taboo. We're trying to normalize it, right? It's not gross. It happens. Don't be embarrassed.
Unhealthy.
Well,
Tell your partners, get tested, right? It's not an embarrassing thing and it's not gross.
Yeah, like I'm just saying, like if you just let it go on for a
If you
period
let
amount
it
of time, it's
fester.
really unhealthy then. If it's not gross, then it's unhealthy.
On unhealthiness, if you don't mind me carrying.
Go for it.
Make sure you take care before and after if you're having sex. Hygiene is so important. Make sure you're clean. It'll help prevent STDs, STIs, and
After sex.
yes, UTIs. It's just so beneficial for you, your skin, your body. Take care of yourself. Clean, wash, do what you need to.
A lot of the times, sometimes we'll have sex during like a yeast infection or bacterial vaginosis and things of that sort. Did you know that they can get passed on to a guy? Like it literally can pass on to a guy, and a guy can pass it on to another woman, and she'll end up with bacterial vaginosis. And if he does not get that fixed, he will continuously pass that on. So not only does he need to get that fixed, she also needs to get that fixed as well. And a lot of the times we can just not have sex at all and kind of have sex with ourselves in that situation if we're not comfortable with having sex. And what I mean by that is masturbation. And a lot of the times that gets a lot of a touchy subject because, you know, a lot of people come from different beliefs and different backgrounds. And a lot of the times they will think it is a horrible thing for them to explore their bodies. And I will say that you are not a horrible person for exploring your body and knowing what it is that you want to do. But the thing is that to be safe with it.
So you're saying it shouldn't be a taboo thing?
No, it shouldn't be taboo at all. And it should be one of those things that I would rather encourage if you are not one of those people that don't feel comfortable having sex with another person. And the thing is like the taboo of it all is mostly, once again, woman based. Because when it comes to men, you can really.
It's simpler things kind of happen on their own. Like it leads to it. I mean, you figure it out. And I mean, kids start making jokes so fast that for guys, it happens. And I mean, yeah, I can't even touch on the subject of what it's like for a woman because I've been in sex ed and all that, never once was it approached.
Right. And that's another thing that I feel like sex education needs to involve as well.
Can I jump in?
Going for it.
So I feel like we've talked a lot about straight sex with
Absolutely.
a girl and a guy. I kind of feel like sex ed, if I think a good title for this episode would be like what sex ed didn't tell you. So I feel like sex ed was really lacking for LGBTQ plus kids, right? Like I feel like the main things that we talked about were the consequences of sex being pregnancy and the consequences being STDs, but it was so focused on like heterosexual sex, right? So like, how do you guys feel about that?
I feel like that's 10 times more important than heterosexual sex. That's just me because I've had gay friends, I've had lesbian friends, and I've also been in that situation where I've been in a vicarious sense. So I kind of went back and forth with it. And it's very important it's kind of more like an emotional thing. I don't know how to, I can't speak for this because like I'm a straight woman. So it's just one of those things where I can't really have a conversation about it without sounding like a heteronormative woman. And I don't know, it's hard, but it's more of those things where you have to be safer with that situation because it's like it's same sex, but I don't know. A lot of stipulations with that situation, they feel like it's safer. Like if it's same sex situations, they're like, oh, this is safer. I can't get pregnant, and it's.
Is it? Yeah, I was about to say, like, I don't think it's safer because you can still get STDs, STIs, any type of sex, you can get those. Like, I feel like it isn't, like, there's all the risks that are in
heterosexual situations. And the thing is like, I'm going to go off a limb here and say that digital dams exist for people that like don't feel comfortable giving oral sex.
Getting onto the topic of resources when it comes to whether it's girl sex, guy sex, when STIs do come up, it might feel harder to go to a health professional about that for fear of judgment. So do you guys know about any like LGBTQ friendly healthcare resources in your community? I know that there's a great one in Denver. It's called Rainbow Alley. And I think that they're the same organization that runs the Pride Parade in Denver. I might be wrong about that, but
yeah, they're a really, really good resource. They do a lot. They also offer like support for all of those. So for all resources, medical, volunteers, like family support, counseling, it's a very, very good organization and it's free. If I'm remembering correctly, it's free.
And they have some virtual options too. I think they have a couple hotlines that you can call. And Rainbow Alley is specifically for youth, but I think that's part of a larger organization. I'm completely forgetting the name, but yeah.
Don't be afraid to reach out to your friends as well, because for me, I'm a straight male, but I have several friends who are gay or were wanting to try other things, but were afraid to go to the clinic or didn't know how to take the action and asked if I would go with. And it is not a weird thing at all. Just being a friend there to help them through this process, which is weird and it's foreign territory to a lot of people. It's good to be there in that situation. Be an extra hand of support, especially if you know and you've taken care of yourself and done what you need to.
I know of one LGBTQ resource in Boulder. It's called Out Boulder. They do testing. They hand out birth control for LGBTQ members and heterosexual people. So they just help on both sides of the fence. They give out condoms. They help you, navigate how to get on any kind of birth control if you need any, or if you need any other kind of like condom stuff, or if you need sexual orientation counseling, if you are like gender fluid and you're having problems of like deciding your gender, or if you want to change, they help with all of that as well. So they're really good people.
I feel like we need to kind of transition into that parenting aspect because I feel like with sex education, that part goes hand in hand as well. And even with parenting, there is same-sex couple parents. And so another thing that I feel like asking you, Lizzie, how is it being a single parent at 25?
Mm-hmm.
How does it feel?
Being a single parent is very, very, very hard. And never did I think that I was going to be a single parent. And I have a 4-year-old. He is the best thing in the world. And it is hard. It is like, I'm not going to say I regret having sex, but I had my son 3 weeks before my 21st birthday, which means I was pregnant beforehand. And I was not prepared financially, emotionally, anything like that. And I didn't have a lot of resources because not only am I a single mom, I was a single mom who aged out of the foster care system. And I already don't have family to support me in all of this. I don't have a lot of people in my life that I can trust with my son. Like, I don't have people. and I don't have people that I can call. And parenting's hard. Like, and it is also, I don't know if taboo is the right word, but parenting is also something that is like you see online and you're like, oh, it's going to be the best thing in the world. Cause I'm over here like, oh my gosh, it's going to be the best. Like, I'm going to spend all this time with my kid and yada, yada, yada. Little did I know that it is the most draining, most emotional, most hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Like, you are now not only in charge of yourself, you are in charge of this little human being.
Right.
And trying to protect him and trying to teach him and doing that all by yourself. There are times where I lay in, like, I cry myself to sleep every night because it is exhausting and it's hard. And that's why when it comes to parenting, like I'm not going to say be married. I'm not going to say all of this because I was with my son's dad for 3 years and I thought he was going to be the person I was going to be with for the rest of my life. But you need to make sure you have a stable relationship to bring in a tiny little human
to that situation. When it comes to that situation, a lot of the times, some people want to be single parents because I'm serious. I'm serious because a lot of the times they don't feel like that person is going to put forth the effort as they are. And so they would just rather them fend with their child and everything like that by themselves than have to go through that mental ringer with their partner or anybody for that matter. For me, I'm kind of gonna go off of, like, I was a parent. Well, I was a kid of a single parent, and it was extremely difficult because I was watching my mom try to do everything in her power to get whatever resources. Like, my mom had me at 19. So literally a lot of the times it'll be one of those things where I don't know if you, Lizzie or Savannah, have felt like I've literally completely shattered my entire life just having this child. And I feel like everything is just like instant regret, but it seems like it's I coulda, woulda, shoulda, but I didn't situation. So if you guys could like elaborate on how you guys navigated that situation of that coulda, woulda, shoulda, but I didn't situation.
I can speak on that super quickly because it's gonna be really emotional for me.
Take your time.
Because a lot of people don't know this, and it's crazy because it happened this year. But I was like, you have sex, there's that risk of getting pregnant. I got pregnant, and in February, a week before Ken died, I had to deliver a baby. I was 17 weeks gestation, and this person that I got pregnant with just up and left when I told him. And it was the hardest thing that I've ever had to do, and it is still something I'm dealing with to this day. But I'm not going to say I regret having my daughter, but I regret it in a way too, because now I wish I didn't do it. And I can't go back and change it. I can't go back and be like, not have sex. Like, I can't do that. And what I do instead is I have to do my best to help other people in that situation instead of doing like regretting it or being frustrated about it. Like, I have to go back and help. That's how I'm healing. That's how I'm dealing with the I shouldn't have done it type deal.
You're deciding to use it to not only help you, but to benefit others as well.
Right.
Which is such an awesome way of doing it, in the way that it should be, because you went through it, you're living through it, and you can give the most real version of it. And all you can do is hope that other people take yours and use it.
Yeah. So I adopted my daughter out into an open adoption 6 years ago. And I never regretted the decision because I already foresaw all the problems that I was going to be having with her dad, his addiction to certain substances, and everything that was just going on. I got pregnant when I was homeless at 22. I lived in a hotel with my significant other at the time. And I just knew we couldn't afford anything. And mind you, this was in Castle Rock. Back then, it was like the 5th richest county in America, with absolutely like no resources for anybody that was homeless there. Could not find one helpful thing there. And I was like, this is the only option I foresee because it's too late, to go to Planned Parenthood and all that stuff. Like we did talk about it, and then we were like, no, we should just keep the baby and figure it out from there. And then as time went on, just our whole relationship got worse. Right. Of her dad and me just fighting over things that we shouldn't even be fighting over, that shouldn't even be happening to us. And I was like, you know what? I'm going through American adoptions. Right. And I feel like that was still the best choice because she has a wonderful adopted mom, a wonderful adopted dad. She has a little brother now that they adopted. Like, she has a whole family and more. They let her do Taekwondo. She's in dance class at 6 years old. Like, that's a lot for a 6-year-old.
It is.
And I'm so proud of her. But I just never regretted anything. I do think back, like, what could I have done better? Could we have worked it out? And I'm just like, no, we couldn't have. So that was the best choice overall.
I don't know if regret is the right word.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know what the right word is because if it wasn't for some of the situations I've been in, if it wasn't for the stillborn, it wouldn't make me who I am today.
Right.
So I don't know if regret is the right word. I don't know what the right word is. Like I said, I just know I think a lot of it also has to do with mental health.
Yeah.
Because there are the baby blues that can last up to a year or more after having a baby.
The baby blues.
The baby blues is it is postpartum depression.
Okay.
You can become suicidal. You can become not homicidal per se, but you could be like, I can't do this. I don't want this baby. You can become distant. You can feel like you're not bonding. You can feel all of these emotions that you're failing, when in reality, it is just a whole bunch of hormones and a huge life change because you went from being in charge of yourself to now being in charge of a teeny human. And it is okay. I'm going to just put it in right here. It is okay to seek help. Up until I think 18 months postpartum. I mean, I'm still doing this when I go to the doctor. For my daughter, is they ask me in the last few weeks, have you felt this, this, and this? I forgot what it's called, but they monitor your postpartum depression. That is super, super important. And it is something that it can be is very serious. So it is important to seek help.
From what I've noticed when it comes to single parents is I grew up a lot around single parents and stuff like that. So I've literally seen pretty much everything. And right now I'm seeing all of my old high school classmates going through this process, and a lot of the times that I've noticed with all of my mom friends, they are seeking help and it is severe, and it's always one of those things where they're posting it on Facebook indirectly, or they'll directly say it. And the thing is that you guys always have support, and no matter what that situation is, I have always been one of those people, and I know there's a lot of people out there that if you are pregnant, I am watching you on the clock 25/8. I'm making sure that you're okay. I'm making sure that you get the resources that you need, and because I don't like watching you guys struggle. And I will always tell single parents, whether you are a single dad or a single mom, you are the strongest people that I know. And you guys are the best people that I know that you can take care of yourself and another human being. You guys are the best people to get it together all in one place. But it's time for you to take a break.
You're superheroes, but even superheroes need help.
Right. Absolutely. You guys need to take a break, and it is okay to take a break. You are not a terrible mother. You are not a terrible father if you are deciding to take a break. Yes, I am looking at you, Lizzie. You are not a horrible human being for taking a break. That you are not a terrible person to make decisions for yourself, that you are not feeling in the right headspace, which back to you, Savannah, you are not, you made the best decision for yourself, and you made the situation to where that you are still seeing your daughter. You know, you are still involved in her life. And I thank you guys for doing the things that it is that you need to do for yourselves, you know?
Hardest things.
Right. And the hardest decisions for yourself, because there are also things that, like, there's abortion involved with this situation as well, which you're not a horrible person for making that decision as well, or even thinking about it, because life is hard. Situations are hard when it comes to this situation, and it's not your fault. Life happens. Pardon my French, but shit happens. Okay. And you're going to get into situations like these, and making the executive decision to be in a better mind frame. Do not do that to yourself. And if you do have your support, by all means, for the love of God, get your support where you can, whether it's from your coworkers, whether it's from your friends, your family. Having that support from those people, even if you feel like it isn't, you can have that emotional and mental support from them. And I'm glad that you guys, I appreciate you guys being in that sense of sharing with us about what it is to be a single parent.
I have a question.
Go for it.
So, because you talked about abortion for a second.
Yes. Trigger warning for you guys.
What do you do if your support is all in the church and they are highly against it? Like,
that is a very good question. And I'm going to tell you just like this. And for everybody out there, it is your body. It is your choice. The thing is that, like, your beliefs do not dictate your decisions. For with anybody else, I know that there are religion-based people, you know, and the decision is yours. You should not have the church base your decisions on you, because you know how you are as a person. That should not base how it is. And I see, Caleb, you have something to say.
I'm sorry, but at the end of the day, if it's what's best for you, they should be fully supporting it one way or another. Absolutely. It doesn't matter if it's something they agree with, if they don't. If it's best for you, they should be willing to support you with full steam all the way.
Right. And the thing is that it's a respect thing. If they cannot respect who you are as a person and how you feel about the situation, then you need to take a step back from that situation, because it's not fair to you, nor is it fair to them. And it's more of not fair to you, because why should you feel like you need to dictate your decision making based on other people? That's not fair to you, is it? Is it fair to you?
No.
No, it's not fair to you.
Well, and there's always the option to find other support groups that will be there and be willing to go through it with you, be there each step. And it's okay to have support groups for different things,
right? Because
not everyone is always going to click the exact same way, and you're going to be able to relate through experiences and these really deep traumatic instances that make you part of who you are. and sharing those experiences help each other relate and feel better about it and easier. It's another way to go through it.
This is a very heavy kind of situation right now. So I would love for all of us to kind of take a breath here. So inhale, exhale.
Side note, I feel like this is targeting. I know you're talking about me.
Okay. So the thing is that I promise you, I am not directing this towards you. The thing is that you have way more experience than I. So does Savannah when it comes to this situation. And so I would rather you tell me what is going on with you and stuff like that, because I am more of the outside looking in situation.
I'm in on the abortion subject.
Oh, well, the thing is little do you know, I had to go through that situation. And it was one of those I had to play the game of whether I wanted to keep a child or not, because I got out of a domestic violence situation and it was a pregnancy scare situation. And thank God for the support of my mom, because she was like, I understand that because I have a lot of health issues going on with me. And it's always played a game of, am I able to have a child or not? And so when that instance kind of came, I was like, I'm not going to sit here and put myself through that situation. So I will be going through that, which by the grace of God, I did not get pregnant by this man. But it was one of those things where it was a tough decision for me, because my aunt went through an abortion. She was like, well, you could talk to her, and I did talk to her about that. And she said, I did have the situation of kind of well, what if, but it was a good thing that she did it, because, it was with a horrible man as well, and it's just when it comes to that situation, I'm not targeting you. And if you felt that way, I apologize.
Oh, no, I meant more of this is kind of what I needed to hear, as I do have that appointment on Friday. I'm just really struggling.
And also, if you do, I'm not sure if it was what all relates to you, but if you enjoy church, but your church doesn't back you, there are always other options for churches. Right. My church for up until 2012 was against flying any type of flag, didn't matter what it was. And then they started flying the pride flag, because that was the only one that they felt was inclusive enough that could be flown at a church, because a church is meant for everyone to feel safe, and serene and happy and included.
Can I add on to the support thing? If whatever your support is not supporting you, you shouldn't have to disclose anything after that.
Point blank period.
If they're like, oh, you shouldn't do this, trying to dictate your life, you should just be like, well, I'm not going to talk about this with you anymore.
Setting that boundary.
You don't have to do anything that you're uncomfortable talking about. For example, this is just an example. My site has created boundary cards for the youth and everybody that is at an event, because we had problems with the church people behind us, because we collaborate with them, but they were pecking at the residents saying, well, what was your experience when you were homeless? Well, what happened to you before you came together? And it's super personal stuff that no one should have to answer. So it's just if that support is not even working out, they could still support you in other things, but a certain topic, you should not have to disclose any medical stuff with them either.
Yeah, I think that's the hardest part for me, because I'm living in it right now, because you guys all got that text message.
Yeah.
And at the circumstances that I'm at right now, me going through another pregnancy is not in my best interest. I have talked to even my therapist is against it, but I've talked to a lot of people around what I should do. And it is the fact that my biggest support, she told me that if I terminate, I'm not going to have anyone. And I already feel like I don't have anyone. And so I was gonna go last week before our in-person meeting, and then I realized me dealing with the aftermath might not have been the best thing to do right now. And then I was also taking this week to finalize my decision, and I have an appointment on Friday. So it is hard, and it is being in the situation by myself. It is the most scariest thing, knowing that I'm gonna go through it and I'm gonna lose a whole bunch of my support people. And it is, yeah.
I'm going to tell you just like this. You have my full support. You always have, and you always will. You have it from Julia. You have it from Savannah. You have it from Kitty. You have it from Caleb. You have it from Ben. You know, you have so much support, and you may lose those people, but when it comes to these experiences, you will always gain others. And you have the biggest support from me because I understand what is going on with this situation, you know, and with the rest of you young parents, if you cannot find the support that you are wanting to have from specific people, please find it in others. And it may take months, weeks, days, years, but when you find those things, you guys will be able to have a successful life being parents. And at this point, I feel like we should conclude with this situation, giving the advice of, you know who you are, you know what you need to do, and you are going to do the damn thing. And I love all of you. Have a good night. And we are done with this wonderful episode that we got. Love you, ladies and gents.